Hey, good morning guys, Jared at 3Cs. I'm excited. We're going to give you a buyer's guide on the CForce 500. This is the new 2025 True Timber Camo behind me. And over here there's like a red one. So they're starting to come in. Beautiful October day, so I thought we would jump into it. I want this video to be a little bit different. I usually do like walkarounds and just talk about that model specifically. But I went online, did some research, like half an hour I sat on there and I looked at all the other brands, major brands. And I just want to give you guys true facts. Right off their website, you guys can go home or at your computer and do the same thing I just did, but just to give you an idea of the value that you're getting with the CF Moto. So let's jump into it and we'll go from there. So the first thing I'll do is a walk around of the CForce 500 because that's what I have here. You do get the aluminum wheels, 25-inch tires front and rear. The back tires are a little bit wider than the fronts just by nature, a little more flotation, driving the power in the back, and we can turn the key on here in a second. But to show you the lights, but we do have independent rear suspension, and this is kind of something that maybe most people overlook. A lot of the brands have it, but there's one that doesn't, or at least for the price point models. So keep that in mind, because look at the ground clearance. So when we start talking about other models, make sure you have that in mind. And then if we open up the glove box here, rear storage box I should say, it's not super deep, but it does go in underneath the seat. Not super wide or tall either, so keep that in mind. Like all the manufacturers, there are like, storage options that you can purchase if you want to. Let me just turn this key on real quick, and we'll just show you what the taillights look like in the back. Let me turn the lights on, because right now they're in the off position. So this is a pretty cool taillight that goes all the way across the rear. And then if I put this vehicle in reverse, CF Moto gives you reverse lights. And none of the other spec sheets on any of the other models talked about reverse lights. And obviously today during the daylight it's not that big of a deal, but at night when you're trying to move things around, that is such a cool feature. And while I have the key on, let me just turn the headlights on, because another pretty big feature that the CF Moto comes with is LED headlights. I think 2 of the other models, we're going to compare 5 or 6 of them, they have LEDs, but the rest are still halogen. And halogen lights were great in the 90s and early 2000s, but every new vehicle on the road is LED for a reason. They work really good. And then you do have a really informative display. So I can't show you the other brands' displays because I don't have them here, but I think the CF Moto gives you a lot of options. So in this display, we have our fuel level, our speed, battery voltage, RPMs. We're in park, so that's what gear we're in. And then our 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive indicator. And then, of course, if I flick this, I can change the brightness of the display. Really hard to tell during the day. But then we can go to our miles, and then we can look at the trip meter and then hour meter. So some different features inside the display. The handlebar controls layout is super easy. This handbrake controls all 4 tires. We have our light switch here. Running lights only, off, low beam and high beam. This is our start switch, our in and out for the winch. Kind of gives you a little bit better look at that. And then over here we have 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and then a 4-wheel drive diff lock. So when we're in diff lock, all 4 tires are going to spin all of the time. Regular 4-wheel drive is an open front diff, a little bit easier to drive. So that last mode we only want you guys to use if you're extremely stuck or about to be stuck. CF Moto does a good job with their fuel tank. It's 5-gallon capacity. Keep that in mind because some of the other ones are really low and I don't know why. So it's 5 gallons there. This is our key switch. And then over here it's pretty cool. The gear selector is way up out of the way. We have low range and high range. So those are both our forward gears. So if we're going to pull a trailer or do some really slow trail riding, I want you guys to be in low. Then we have high for higher speed riding. Neutral, reverse, and park. And another thing that I'm only thinking CF Moto has in this price range is the USB ports. Nobody else in their spec sheets, and I looked at all the pictures, I couldn't find a USB port. Some of them do have the 12 volt though. So, well, I would say most of them have the 12 volt. Even if they didn't talk about it, I'm pretty sure they all should have that equipped with it. And in the front, you can see we do have the arched front A-arms, which I couldn't really see any other brands having the arched front A-arms. They all had independent suspension in the front, but this gives you a lot more ground clearance. If we zoom back and out, see how open that is in the front? Really nice for those like cupped out logging roads. And by far the only brand that we're going to talk about today that has a winch is the CF Moto. This is a 2,500 pound winch. We've sold over 1,000 CF Motos and we have zero issues with winches. I think we've replaced one winch since 2017. Sometimes it's maybe more the user as well. So I don't think there's at fault there. And then this radiator is extremely easy to clean. We can pop this front and grill out, get to the radiator and wash it out. So that's a really quick overview of the CF Moto ATV that we have to offer here at 3Cs. A little bit of background on us is we were a Polaris dealer for 25 years and we switched full-time to CF Moto. And CF Moto is already the third largest brand in the United States. So now let's jump into some comparisons. As I do this, I'm just going to kind of walk around the CF Moto, just kind of keep walking around it. It's kind of a beautiful day, a little chilly. But the couple side notes that are kind of important as far as categories go is this does have engine braking. So if you're going down a hill, that'll help control that downhill speed. It's not going to freewheel and get away from you. It is a 495cc engine. And what's funny about that is like when we talk about the Polaris here in a second, they call it a 450, but it's truly a 499cc. It's literally a 500cc. So it's the same engine as this, basically size-wise. And this has 1,350 pounds of towing capacity, which is right in the middle of the pack on all these ATVs. I'll talk about one that I was pretty shocked on how low it was, to be honest. And with the independent ground clearance, we're at 10.5, which when we're comparing all these, it's right at the top of that. So independent really helps this model out. It does have the full length skid plate. The other models are painted. So let's go over here and look at this one for a second. This one is a painted finish, and none of the other brands are doing painted. They're all injection molding. So it's actually painted. We can wax this. This is the red. Looks pretty orange on the camera. It just does, not sure why. But let's talk about the first one that I looked at was the Sportsman 450. So let's pull up a picture of that. And this is the 450 HO EPS for 2025. They retail for $82.99, which is going to be $1,800 more than the CF Moto. A couple things that it does not come with. It does not come with a winch. They are steel rims and they're not painted. The painted stuff, I don't know if that's really that big of a deal. It's a nice touch, but painted stuff, it's up to you to decide if you want it to be painted. I wouldn't buy either one based on the color of the machine. It does have 33 horsepower, so it's 1 horsepower less than the CF Moto, but it's 5 cc's bigger, so that's kind of interesting. There's no engine braking on the Polaris. They are still using halogen bulbs, which I was kind of shocked by. I thought Polaris would have switched to LEDs, because I know some of their more expensive models are. Not sure why that didn't trickle down into the other models. They did not talk about a USB port. Their website specifically said it just comes with a 12-volt outlet. It does have a front rack extender randomly. I'm not sure why. These rack extenders are only $99, so if you want a rack extender, we usually take 10% off of that kind of stuff. So whatever, $90 for a rack extender. On-demand ATV or four-wheel drive. Now that is one thing that the Polaris does own. They're the only ones in the market. If you want to switch into four-wheel drive while you're ripping on the trail on the Polaris, you can literally let off the throttle, switch it into four-wheel drive, and keep going. That is the only brand. The Polaris is the only brand you can flip on the fly, which is really cool. And the last side note about Polaris is it only comes with a 6-month warranty. So this is a 1-year warranty. You only get 6 months with the Polaris. So keep that in mind, because you start talking extended warranties at some of these super centers and they really nail you for the warranties. I don't think it's fair. CF Moto does have CF Moto Care. I think like a 5-year warranty is only like $1,000. It's so reasonable. I was actually in a forum last night and a gentleman was like, is this a good price for a warranty? And it's like $3,800 for a Can-Am 5-year warranty. And I'm like, $3,800? You're more than halfway to a whole freaking CF Moto. So I was pretty shocked what he was about to buy an extended warranty for. The next model we're going to talk about is just the Honda FourTrax Foreman 4x4 EPS. So a lot going on there, a big name. They retail for $88.99, which would be $2,400 more than the CF Moto. So you're really getting big chunks here. Like $2,400 is over a third of the price of this vehicle. Keep that in mind. It does come with a 1-year warranty. I think that's always been the thing. People come in the showroom, I have a Honda, it's great warranty and it lasts forever. That's cool. It does. It's kind of weird is it is a 5-speed transmission. It's the only one in this comparison that is not automatic. So keep that in mind. It's way more cumbersome. You know, automatic ATVs are taking over. It's you know, standard trucks. I still have a standard truck. I enjoy them, but not everybody wants to be shifting on the trail. If you're just trying to have a casual trail ride, you don't always need to be shifting all the time. What's really weak on that Honda was that it only has 848 pounds of towing capacity. That is super low. Like, that is half of this. And I think the Can-Am that we're going to talk about is way higher. I think the Can-Am is double the Honda. That's crazy. And the worst part about the Honda is that it's a straight axle. I can't stress to you enough how important having independent suspension is when you're trying to trail ride. It's just so hard to ride independent or with a straight axle. It is a 518cc engine in the Honda, but they do not talk about at all any horsepower ratings. I don't know if they're too embarrassed or if they don't want anybody to know what the horsepower is, but Polaris and CFMoto come right out. They tell you what the horsepower is. Can-Am comes right out and tells you. Honda is super tight-lipped about it. They do not say horsepower ratings. Only has 7.5 inches of ground clearance, and that's due to that straight axle. They just can't get any more ground clearance out of it because of that. And it only has a 3.9 gallon fuel tank, which is a lot less than the CFMoto. I don't know. And they do not talk about their headlights. I don't know if they're halogen, LEDs. I would imagine they're just halogens. Honda's always been more of like true and try technology. They're not trying to push the limits of that kind of stuff. So I would guess that the Honda is a halogen light bulb. And we're going to go inside for the rest of these because it is super windy and I hope the mic is working. All right, I'm just going to walk around the showroom and finish these up. It is super windy outside. You can see the flag out there just ripping. So the Can-Am is going to be a 2025 Can-Am Outlander 500 DPS. Super easy to say, Outlander 500 DPS. What's funny with this model though is that it has a 650cc engine. Maybe they just dumb it down to a 500, and that might be a good thing. They're using the same platform. Maybe they're just detuning it. So they're calling it a 500. It has 40 horsepower, so it definitely has more power than the Polaris and the CFMoto. So a little more HPs there. They do really well with their ground clearance. It's 10.25, so almost identical to the CFMoto. And their towing capacity, the Can-Am takes the cake. They have 1,800 pounds of towing, and their headlights are LEDs. So I think Can-Am is kind of like right there with the technology stuff. They're doing a good job really pushing that. So you do get, I think, the most of the Can-Am. That's crazy. The phone is ringing because it's 8 a.m. and we don't open until 10. And that Can-Am Outlander is $83.49, so it's $1,850 more than the CFMoto on the website. Again, that's a 2025 model. All right, I waited for a minute to let the phone ring through. So it's either wind outside or it's phones ringing inside here today. So last one on the list is going to be a 2025 Yamaha Kodiak 450 EPS. I would buy a Yamaha if I wasn't a CFMoto dealer. Not just because of the price. They are $75.99, so it's only $1,100 more than the CFMoto. There's no winch with this, and there's been no winches with any of these other models. Keep that in mind. So if you're buying the Can-Am, Honda, Polaris, or Yamaha, you have to spend an additional $400 to get a winch. So on top of these prices, you have the winch. So there's no winch in the Yamaha Kodiak. It's a 421cc engine, and they again do not talk about horsepower. So we have no idea. It was literally just the Can-Am, Polaris, and CFMoto that told you what their power ratings were. And those three are now the biggest three brands in the country. CFMoto is now the third largest. So maybe those three brands have it figured out and they're not afraid to tell you. Yamaha has 3.7 gallons of fuel, which is almost a full gallon less than the CFMoto, which I think is kind of silly. I think you might want to have a little more fuel with you on the trail. People are always talking about that. The dice runs are always like carrying fuel with the CFMoto, so you can only imagine what they have to carry on the Yamahas. They do a good job with their tires. They're a 25-inch tire, 6-month warranty, so the warranty is down a little bit compared to the CFMoto so far. Oh, and the Honda. Honda and the CFMoto are the only two that have come with a 1-year warranty. They do have halogen bulbs, and I kind of expected that with Yamaha. I didn't think that they would have the LEDs. I don't know. Like I said, I think Can-Am and CFMoto are the two that are pushing it the most. They do have aluminum rims, and I did not see anything about a USB port. So this is just a really quick buyer's guide. We just compared, I think, 5 models, including the CFMoto, and this is all just facts that you can find on the website. Like I literally just pulled up the spec sheets for every model, pulled them up, and made that decision. So I think if I wasn't a CF Moto dealer, I would probably buy a Yamaha. My kids race Yamaha dirt bikes. They make a great product. I think the dealer network is really strong with them. I think their parts are probably the best. Our experience with the Polaris is, unfortunately, is that they need front differentials, U-joints, ball joints, and just like wear items a lot faster than any other brand on the market. So Polarises might ride really good, but you spend a lot more in upkeep, our experience. So hope you guys found it helpful. This was Jared from 3C's Recreation. We just enjoy the power sports lifestyle. If you're in the area, we're in Western New York. We're right off I-86, exit 7. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you on the trail.